Welcome back. We got strong results from BHP this week. The mining giant reporting its best first half profit in 7 years. We want to bring on Mike Henry. He's the CEO of BHP. And Mike, it's great to speak with you. BHP posting a profit jump of just around 16% here. I guess first, just talk to us about what's driving demand and what are you seeing from a global recovery standpoint?
Well, look, thanks for having me on. In terms of the what's driving demand, first of all, healthy recovery underway in China. That economic recovery came more quickly than many expected. And in more recent months, we're seeing an acceleration of the recovery elsewhere as well. And for a company like BHP, the health of the global economy is everything.
There's a lot to talk to you about. There's coal and issues with China, but I want to jump to the future and specifically nickel sulfate. I don't really understand what the stuff is, but I know it's crucial to lithium-ion batteries. And we talk a lot about EV and Ford, for instance, all electric in Europe by 2030. I got to imagine your growth plans are back on track for nickel sulfate.
They absolutely are. So this is a very positive story. BHP is one of the world's biggest producers of what's called Class 1 nickel, which is the nickel that lends itself well to battery production. Nickel sulfate is an intermediate product which is used for battery precursor, and we're in the process of building our first nickel sulfate plant in Western Australia right now.
Mike, when you take a look, you mentioned the strength coming out of China, but I'm curious just what you're seeing in other parts of the world, because I think there's some concern that many of the other countries are lagging pretty far behind. Is that the read that you're getting when you're looking at the demand that you're seeing from specific countries?
No, not at all. So if anything, we're seeing an acceleration in the economic recovery and greater confidence growing around that recovery as well, of course, as the vaccines get deployed. Now, it's not to say that there's still not some uncertainty around COVID. We're keeping a close eye on that. But for now, things are looking pretty good and more positive by the month.
What's going on when we read about in the United States about BHP ships? It's not a formal lockout from China, but ships that are loaded with coal not delivering to China. What is that about?
Okay, so there's been geopolitical tension or tension between Australia and China as of late. That has led to a ban on any Australian coal being imported into China. Now, from a BHP perspective, our coal sales book is reasonably diversified, and so we've been able to ship all of our coal to other countries, thanks to some great work on the part of the BHP marketing team and the strong customer relationships we have. Now, we do see this as being a near-term challenge. No certainty yet as to when that ban will be lifted. But the outlook for our steelmaking coal business, so a type of coal called coking coal or metallurgical coal, it looks pretty bright because we sit on the world's premium quality coking coal. And as steelmakers seek to decarbonize, the type of coal that we produce is going to be in strong demand. And the value of that coal on the decarbonization journey, we think is going to be even more recognized.
And I would imagine, I think part of your earnings report talked about iron ore shipments actually up into China as it's rebuilding. But help us understand, coal is still an integral part of the global infrastructure, the global economy. It's not going anywhere in the next 2 decades, is it?
So very important here that we distinguish between coal for electricity or power generation and coal for steelmaking. Now, the coal for electric power generation is more easily substitutable than coal for steelmaking. Now, we still think that there's going to be strong demand for that first type of coal for power generation, for quite a while yet, because of the existing infrastructure and the time it takes to substitute that infrastructure with renewables. However, coal for steelmaking, we think is going to be even more resilient because whilst there's long-dated options around moving to green steel, so steelmaking that doesn't require coal, that's even earlier in the transition, and it is going to take some time for the economics of that type of steelmaking to be improved, and then for the current approach to steelmaking to be replaced. So we see that as being a 2040s story.
Mike, I want to ask you, because you became CEO of this company just over a year ago, and it's quite the time to take that position. How have you just navigated the past 12 months, and I guess how has that shaped your plans then for the next couple of years?
Well, thanks for the question, and it's a great one. This is really a story about people. So we have about 80,000 people that work in BHP across the world, and notwithstanding the strength of the Chinese economy, what's happening elsewhere, it's really the way that people have stepped up across the company to navigate some very challenging times. That, combined with the support that we've had from local communities, business partners, governments, has allowed us to operate pretty much at full capacity for the past 12 months, in spite of the COVID challenges we've had in the US, in Chile, here in Australia. And it's just so impressive to see. It's quite unbelievable, actually, the effort that people have invested in keeping the business safely running. And that's what sits behind the stellar results that we've just brought in for the first half.
Mike Henry, great to speak with you, CEO of BHP. We hope to speak to you again soon. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.